Hey YouTube, this is the Art of Prepping. I enjoyed the show. The first season of Alone was awesome. The second season of Alone was even better, but this third season is just it's really setting up to be an amazing experience. So this is season three, episode one. I'm gonna go through the highlights and maybe do a little chit chat if I have time. And so what happened was in the very beginning of the first episode, it features Jim getting just started. And Jim, of course, is the high school teacher. He sizes up the environment when he first gets there and makes a priority to make a shelter and gather tinder. It says in the captions that Patagonia is a very rural environment, only has 5 people per square mile, and it gets approximately 6 feet of rain yearly. It switches over to Britt, which is the accountant. He scouts the area out first. He says he wants a sunny location but low wind. He points out the steep terrain in his areas, the wet surfaces, and he's looking for a flat surface. He finds a flat surface, but it's under large trees, so he moves on, and he thinks he heard a puma. And the pumas in the caption says can take down elk and moose. And then he runs into some wild boar scat, but he's very calm, and he just points out that he has to be very cautious. In the captions, it says boar can weigh over 400 pounds in Patagonia. And then he moves on to use a downed tree to make part of his shelter. Then it switches over to Callie. Now, Callie was underestimated, I think, by all means, because of the information that was put out early on in the show, in the actual, the clips online. Now, as of this morning, though, this is, of course, the day after the episode was released, the first episode of season three. They put out another video clip showing more skills. So Callie has some skills going on. She may be very skinny, and I still don't think she'll go very far, especially when it gets colder and it may be harder to get food sources. But I think that she has the potential to maybe at least make it into, fifth or sixth place potentially if she continues to show this level of skill. Once again, she's a herbalist. She first got there. It shows her skinny dipping. This is, of course, all still on day one. And she puts up a basic tarp shelter. She says she wants to take things slow. She doesn't want to survive, but she says, this is where I am living, and she's trying to make it a home. She says that she's going to make a chair. She points out that comfort is important. She's driven by the prize money, and it says that she has not gone more than 2 weeks without talking to her mom, and that's a concern. In the captions, it says bamboo can reach 20 plus feet high in Patagonia. And then at the very end of that little caption there, it shows her building a chair from bamboo. It switches over now to Britt. And Britt, right there when it switches over, it shows him looking and hearing for a noise in the woods. Is it a boar? It has that kind of a higher pitch, like a distressed boar in the distance. And he tries to see if it's an animal distress call. He goes looking in the woods for the animal, but notices it's quite a bit further away than he would like to go and up on an elevated area. So he turns around and he returns back to his camp where the fire is going. Now it goes into day two now, and it switches over to Jim. He builds a teepee, says winter is on the way, so he's got to be prepared for it, creates a raised bed to keep off the ground. It switches over to Callie again. She says she's tired, but it's a good tired, and she's explored the area pretty well. She said that she's very focused on foraging and fishing. Continues to gather firewood. She said she found some mushrooms and berries, and she shows it. She caught a rainbow trout, processes the fish, uses the guts for bait, and then she caught another fish. And then it switches over to Jim. He's in his shelter waiting out the rain, wants to expand the shelter and basically, process wood for fire. And he wants to put in a stone floor in his shelter. But it keeps on raining. And it says in the captions that Patagonia is basically pretty well known for not really having a lot of daylight. It says an average of 9 hours of light a day versus in the U.S., the average state in the U.S. gets about 15 hours per day. And then it jumps over to day three, where it gets interesting. Jim is the person that they show on day three first. He said it shows that his mind is wandering quite crazily. And he says that he's been thinking about his wife and adopted kids on the way. Thoughts are overwhelming. And he says he has to stay positive. And so when he says he's trying to stay positive, he says it's the number one rule he teaches in his high school. It's called PMA, positive mental attitude. And he's tempted to quit. Says he can't control his mind and his brain, and then he taps out. And that's kind of a shocker, really. I had him ranked quite a bit higher than this. He blames stress and his responsibilities at home for this. He says that he underestimated Patagonia and survival. And then goes on to day 3. It starts out with Fowler. Fowler, I believe he said, is a boat builder. He's actually a pretty funny, likable guy. I didn't really know much about the guy. He's awesome. He puts up his shelter. It's a basic tarp shelter. He said it's about 15 feet away from when he was dropped off. He said he's near high elevation areas, damp dew on his gear. And then it goes on. He said he's in a bad location. He needs to go deeper into the woods to set up camp. And he's a very likable person. Once again, he needs the money, and he is scouting the area, found a big tree that may be used as a back wall of his shelter. Found some bones, possible cow bones, set up fishing lines, found shelter location using some bamboo to build with, and he thinks that he saw a big cat, possible a puma, watching him. So that's just a highlight there. I think we can take from this that there are some people like Callie that are underestimated by most people, including myself, that the essentials and the basics for survival have to be done first. And I think this group in particular is unbelievable. I think this is going to be the best show by far, hands down. And I was just blown away, though. In all seriousness, Jim, to tap out that early, I had him as lasting probably about and being in 4th place, just because I thought the pressure from all of his kids in high school, and just I know that he didn't have very much hands-on experience, but man, it's just shocking. So stay tuned. We'll talk about this further in episode 2. Thanks for watching.